Hey everyone, David here. I am so excited to tell you that our friends with the Mixed Reviews podcast are being recognized as an eligible nominee for the Podcast Awards. But we need your help. This July, you can nominate the Mixed Reviews for consideration in the film and TV category. It only takes a few seconds, I promise. Navigate over to podcastawards.com and nominate the Mixed Reviews in the film and TV category. Nominations can be done through July 31st, so head on over today to podcastawards.com to help recognize Louie and Gavin for their exceptional work with the Mixed Reviews. Welcome to Fear Coded, a podcast where we talk about media from the horror genre and take a queer reading of a single book, video game, film, or TV show to explore just how queer horror can be. And in this episode, we're talking about the 2014 film by Jennifer Kent, The Babadook. I'm David.
I'm Marilee.
And I'm Tyler.
And before we start crying out shrilly for our mommies, I want to check in and say hello with my co-hosts on how things are going for them. In a landscape of horrors that our real world has to offer, what's making y'all scared and what's making us feel prepared? Who wants to get started?
Oh boy. I would like to start with our celebration of Pride Month.
Happy Pride!
Happy Pride! As of this recording, it is the first day of Pride Month. I think when this comes out, it'll be in July, in which case it will be Happy Wrath Month to all of my fellow angry queers. So I'm looking forward to a summer of queerness, being gay, and, you know, all the stuff that entails, which in this case is talking about horror movies. So I think that is making me prepared. I think the only thing making me scared is just kind of the general state of the world as of the time of this podcast, which I think will probably still be the case when this podcast comes out. But being Pride Month and just like the summertime, it's so hot. It's so hot, y'all.
So
but
hot.
like,
Oh my God.
but I feel like summer vibes are on point.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like summertime to me is a time that's like, you know, there's more sunlight, so we're getting, you know, our vitamin D or whichever one it is. Florida education did not teach me why the sun is so good for you.
It's
okay,
D,
good.
You're correct.
It's D.
Okay, thank God. That would have been really embarrassing. But yeah, I just feel like this is the time for us to like kind of enjoy ourselves, do the things that we've been putting off for the entirety of the winter and spring. So yeah, I'm excited.
Great. I love that for you.
What about you, Marilee? How are you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling very prepared. I've had a great week. Again, it's Pride today. Yesterday was my birthday. My brother-in-law. This is true. Yeah.
We're very non-verbally excited for Marilee. Neither of us wanted it to get picked up on microphone. We both opened our mouths really widely and then did touchdown arms, which is what you do.
Or like excited red panda.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
That's what it was.
100%. It was really delightful to watch because there was no, like, it was really fun. But yeah, I had a really nice birthday. It was super fun. I just had, like, dinner with the fam. It was really fun.
That's fantastic. I love that, Marilee. That makes me happy to hear.
Yeah, I'm really, really, really just so lucky because I'm one of 4 siblings and we're all really close still. And it's just so lovely that I have, my older sister is 7 years older than I am. So I didn't really know her when I was growing up, but now we all live, like I live walking distance from her house. And it's so, like if you had told me like a decade ago, 15 years ago, that this would be my life now, I would not have believed you. And I just love it. It's really nice.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. And so like, again, the family's very stressful. There's a lot of stuff going on, but the fact that I just like last night had dinner with my siblings and their significant others and my niece and nephew, it really, I feel prepared to take on anything. David, Tyler, let's go.
Let's go. I love that.
Hell yeah. Love
also,
that.
Happy Pride. I know we already
Happy
said
Pride.
it, but again, it bears repeating.
It does.
It does. And well, we will have to come back to it for today's topic, obviously. A little bit of discussion about pride will be part of this conversation.
Good.
Excellent. David, please tell us, are you prepared or are you scared or are you both?
Y'all, I'm scared. And not just about Mr. Babadook, who did terrify me, and I hold you both personally accountable for that.
You're welcome.
It's fair. It's fair.
I am scared because much like the specter of this ghost that is part of Act 1 of this film, I have a social obligation tonight, and I know no details about it.
Jesus.
And that has got me feeling scared.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's happening? Are we eating? Are we drinking? Who's coming? I know none of the answers to this. And then, like any good Hitchcockian terror, I have filled in all the blanks with the absolute worst things that could be happening.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm living scared this afternoon until it actually happens. Then I'm sure it will be fine and delightful. But right now, feeling scared.
Absolutely.
You are a much braver person than me, because if I agreed to a social obligation without knowing what was involved, I think I would have just said no.
Mm-hmm.
What do I eat for lunch? I don't know what I'm having for dinner. I mean, I know that sounds like a little much, but
No.
like,
I absolutely understand.
Yes, same. The anxiety brain, it's going, you're asking the questions that need to be asked, and no one's giving you the answers, so you just have to fill them in. And the answers that you fill in, always the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Always, every time. Every time. I go message your friend right now and ask where you're going for dinner so you can figure out your lunch situation.
Well, unfortunately, Mike is the one who obliged us to this. So I just, I don't like the idea of Millhouse having 2 spaghetti dinners. So we'll just hope that it all ends up being okay for me in the end.
Well, we're hoping that everything's coming up, David.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, thank you. But today, we're not talking about sketchy dinners or the state of the world or the stress that comes with families. Today, we are talking about the stress that comes with families. Just as a note. Today, we are talking about The Babadook, a 2014 Australian supernatural psychological horror film written and directed by Jennifer Kent. The film is centered on a widowed single mother and her son who have to confront a mysterious presence in their home, which seemingly came from the pages of a children's book.
And The Babadook premiered at the 2014 Sundance Film Festival in the prestigious Midnight section. This section is reserved for screening films that provoke an audience reaction, not just from the horror genre, but often including it. The film was a hit at Sundance. It was picked up for U.S. distribution by IFC Films.
The Babadook received critical acclaim, including a nod from The Exorcist director William Friedkin, who said he'd never seen a film more terrifying. It is a cult classic, and in 2017, it became a bit of an internet meme, which we will certainly be talking about.
Yeah.
Before we do that, what is everybody's background with the film?
So I first watched The Babadook on my laptop in 2017.
That's the scariest way to watch this movie. I have to interrupt you.
Oh, 100%.
I don't like that.
It was like on Adele, like it was just like the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like sitting on the bed and I'm watching it and it's like dark in my room and I'm just like, boy howdy. At the time though, I really loved it. And I thought it was a really smart take on making horror that had something to say. And 2017, I was like, so it was probably like the summertime. So I'm 26 years old, and I think this was like the first horror movie that I watched that was like, oh, okay, this is beyond just like, Freddy Krueger's trying to kill you in your nightmares kind of vibe.
Right.
Like it actually was just like, okay, we have a message that we want to deliver with this movie, and we're going to be forward about it. And I don't think I had seen a horror movie like that before. Marilee, what about you? What did you think of this movie? Like, what was your experience with it?
Well, so I can't remember exactly how I watched it. I think it was like a Redbox movie, but like I did watch it the year that it came out.
Nice.
And I remember really liking it. I thought it was an excellent movie, but I'm be honest, I hadn't really thought about ever watching it again since. So I forgot how actually legitimately scary it was.
Yeah, before turning the mics on, Marilee was apologizing to me because this was my first time with the Babadook. I was familiar with its meme status, but I had never watched the film, and now I have watched it a few times to get ready for this conversation, and it was scary every single time. This is a very scary movie.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so.
It does not surprise me that it didn't make its way into my rotation of My Little Pony films. Because it was scary. It was really scary. Well done to Jennifer Kent. This was a terrifying film. Terrifying.
Oh my God. It was really scary.
I love that it was scary, not just because of the Babadook, though. Like,
yeah.
God.
Yeah. Oh God.
No,
the Babadook, well, absolutely horrifying, was my favorite of the scary parts because everything else was worse.
Yes, totally. Because it was just very like, oh, this is like real. This is like someone has been traumatized. The child is experiencing that trauma. The trauma is manifesting in the child. Like it's a worst case scenario for a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I completely agree. And so the film is a supernatural psychological horror film.
Mm-hmm.
And my question to the two of you who've watched a lot more horror films than I have is, what does that mean for us and this podcast? Like, what is this definition, or what is this subgenre of horror films?
So I think psychological horror gets tossed around a lot as a phrase of like a little bit of a buzzword, because it, along with like elevated horror as a concept, people really like to say whenever they see a horror movie and think, yes, it's not a slasher movie filled with beer and boobs. And I think that it kind of takes away from the fact that this movie is deeply psychological in a lot of ways. It really, there's a lot of stuff for you to think about, and the movie wants you to think about it in a way that's very deliberate.
I think that's a really good point to bring up, especially when you mention elevated horror, because I think this is a concept that sort of came up with like the rise of TikTok and A24 and neon films.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that horror films of the past are like schlocky and bad, and they're just focused on like titillation. Nowadays, the horror movies they have so much to say, and they're so deep, and really like, you can read something into many horror films from all periods of time. Like, exactly. I think that's one of the reasons why we find horror to be so interesting, is because it's reflective of the culture that it was made in, just like all other art.
Mm-hmm.
But it manifests in this way that's like very, anxiety inducing and in your face, and kind of, and like the best kind of horror to me really makes you think about that feeling afterwards. And this is a movie that really wants you to feel everything that the characters are feeling. It's very oppressive. The manifestations of the psychological states of our characters are like made literal with like the house, the food they eat, the clothes they wear. And I think all of that stuff is very interesting and very much like a novel in that way. It's very literary. But I think the idea that like the Babadook, because it's more overt in what it's trying to say, is special in some way from other horror movies. I think that's that misconception of elevated horror, quote unquote. So I think it's cool that we have this experience with it, but it's also intended to just kind of scare the shit out of you, just like any other good horror should do.
Yeah. And it succeeds. Again, I if you have not seen the film, I want you to be very clear. This one's a scary.
Yeah. This is a David no. It might have even been a Marilee no, but
it's a Marilee once a decade.
Wow. We didn't talk about that, but by the way, happy Pride. This is 10 years old. It just passed its birthday about 2 weeks ago. May 27th was when this film came out.
Wow. Oh my God, 10 years ago?
Yeah. Congratulations, Kent. Hope you're still getting some checks every time we watch this of like
I hope
half
so
of a
too.
penny,
I desperately hope
works.
so. You deserve it. Like, you put your whole Kentucky into this one.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The Babadook.
The Babadook. Well, there's a lot of Baba blanks that I think we'll have to cross the bridge to. But before we talk about sort of the meme status of this film, I wanted to ask the question, is this movie queer cinema? Because when we were starting to think about what the first few episodes of this podcast could look like, you were both like, we have to do the Babadook, queer icon, Babadook, throw a boa around. And I was like, God, I vaguely remember this. So is this movie like inherently queer?
Well, first of all, David, anything can be queer if you try hard and believe in yourself. So jot that one down.
Especially in June, Marilee.
Absolutely.
At its most powerful.
In a more serious note, of course it is. Obviously it is. Anything with a theme of having something that refuses to die within you and try to lock it away has the potential for a queer reading.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, and I think there's also a scene in the movie where a mother yells at her loud and dramatic son, "Why can't you just be normal?" And then the child screams in response, and of course that's queer.
Yeah, obviously.
But like, even more to the point, I think we see in this movie that the traditional family structure is totally upended, which based off of our first episode when we were talking about queer theory is about queering the common heterosexual ideology, which in this case is like a nuclear family. There's a mother, a father, and then a child or children. And in this case, the father is dead, the mother is not sympathetic, and she's not very compassionate, and the son is not an adorable, well-behaved cherub. And in a lot of ways, the son is trying to take the place of the father by saying, like, I'm going to kill the Babadook. I'm going to fight it. I'm going to save you.
Oh, he takes on this sort of paternal protectorate role.
Exactly. But what makes that kind of queer to me is that a 7-year-old should not have to do that. And I think that that's sort of like that queering of the traditional family structure makes it much more of a queer theoretical sort of movie. Because that's not normal. That's not how things are supposed to be dictated by the dominant ideology of heterosexuality and what a family is supposed to be. So I think there's that. And then I also think it's just like there's a lot of tension going on between the mother and the son. And I think that is very resonant for a lot of queer people with a mother who just doesn't understand why the son behaves the way he does.
It's interesting, Tyler, because I also picked up on the mother-son of it all with Amelia and...
Samuel,
thank you.
No
Sammy. With Samuel and Amelia here, because there's love in Amelia's life, but we watch her be corrupted by grief, sadness, anger. And I think anyone watching this film in the first act would be forgiven to think that there is no Babadook and that we're in a real situation in which Amelia herself is actually losing tenets with reality and is going to take action because she is, I think, honestly, my first viewing, girl just needs a good night's sleep. We're in an Ed Norton situation, Fight Club, and that this is just what happens when human beings don't get enough sleep. I will tell you, scariest thing you can do in the world is go without sleep for 2 weeks. But in the end, the Babadook is not just the representation of anger, sadness, and grief, but actually a supernatural being. And so I think that rung true for me very personally as to what are the ways in which you have to reject the love of a parent or the love of a mother, particularly when she becomes possessed of evil.
No, I just, I think that, I don't know, maybe this is just my opinion, because the actress, I think her name is Essie Davis. I love her. She was the lead in an incredible show, if you like mysteries, called Miss Phryne Fisher's Murder Mysteries, which is great. It's set in the 1920s in Australia. Fantastico. So maybe I just have an inherent sympathy towards people this actress is portraying. But when you guys talk about her as an unsympathetic person, I really reject that as a concept, because to me, it's so clear how much Amelia loves her son. The circumstances around what happened, for his birth and the ways that he personally makes her life difficult are all factors in why she really reacts the way that she does in this movie. But on a fundamental level, I don't know, like, I really feel like you can tell how much she does love Samuel. And if we're going to read the Babadook as like Samuel is queer and the Babadook is this force of like hatred, I think it's much more in line, thinking about how maybe, you know, it's like growing up different and having a mother struggle with the things that in her life that have told her that this is wrong in a lot of ways, and her overcoming that to appreciate her queer son.
That's an awesome read. If I had to pick a character to represent the queer audience, I would actually pick Amelia, because
Okay, yeah.
I think that being different in a world, and I think you can see it in the scene where Amelia is with the other moms the most. She does not fit in, and the nagging presence of the Babadook to turn to anger and violence, I think, is something that queer people experience. And like the only solution is to take dramatic action that causes others pain, even those you love. And so to me, that was the character that was like the most queer to me, was Amelia herself.
Well, yeah, that's what I was kind of going in when I made the joke about like the thing that won't die. Like, I don't know if you want to read it as like being gay or trans or however else you wanted to say it, but there is something within Amelia, and like obviously the regular reading is grief, but like that she can't express in her everyday life, but it's there in her subconscious and it will get out whether you want it to or not.
Right.
That's a fantastic reading, because I hadn't even considered that. That's a really awesome point. Just this idea that, you know, there's something that can't die that you have to repress.
Yeah. Is
so fascinating because of that queer experience. And I think when that happens, you do experience grief too.
Yeah, of course.
That's grief over a part of yourself that you can never, you know, enjoy and relish in, because some broader force is saying, no, you can't do this.
Well, those are very serious interpretations of this story in a queer way. Let's take a turn of the coin and think about this a little bit more lightheartedly and talk about the Babadook's rise to fame as a queer icon / meme of the internet. So what you both were, here's the deal. When I was reading through the show notes, I was like, oh my God, my friends were there when this happened. And I was too old, I guess, to be in these spaces, because I only got this when it got to like pop media and the New Yorker was writing an article about all of these things that happened online. So can you all walk me through the early parts of this? Like, how did this happen?
Okay. So to me, the Babadook has been a queer icon long before, you know, all of that nonsense.
Right. Because,
and this is true, I saw this, I don't know, in July. Twitter's like that. I'm not gonna go back and look. But July, a comedian and screenwriter who, if you look her up, by the way, like, this is not the most impressive thing. Like, this is, I'm gonna say what she's involved in here, but I need you to know, like, she was involved in like the Ghostbusters remake. Like this lady,
Nice.
she's like talented. She's really cool. But this comedian called Katie Dippold tweeted something. It was like throwback Thursday to Halloween when I dressed as the Babadook, but my friend's house had more of a grown-ups drinking wine vibe.
Nice.
And like if and there's this picture of somebody dressed up as Mr. Babadook looking completely out of place in like this house with people, like there's a plate with cheese. It's like, and to me, instant icon status. Like, even when a couple years later people started talking about the Babadook being queer and all of that nonsense, I was like, of course the Babadook is queer. Just the instantly othering experience of being dressed as the Babadook where no one else is dressed up for Halloween. It's so relatable. It's a metaphor for the queer experience in its totality, in my opinion, including loving Halloween when other people are really not into it as much.
And so that's wild. So then we look at that tweet from July of 2016, and we can do a little bit of reverse extrapolation. Okay, the movie comes out in 2014. The release date in the United States wouldn't be until November, but its premiere is in May. Then we fast forward, obviously, then Dippold dresses up for Halloween 2015, tweets about this in 2016. And then there's a little bit more that happens on Tumblr, I think, in 2016.
Well, I don't know about in like 2016. I think after that the Babadook sort of like went into like sleep mode. You know.
Okay. Got it.
Chilling out in the basement. It's just kind of there. 2017 rolls around. It's the summertime. Pride Month is about to start. Netflix is setting up a category called LGBT movies.
Right. That's what happens next.
Through some sort of accident in whatever their algorithm is, they put the Babadook in the list of LGBT movies. And of course, people laugh it up, and we all have a wonderful time about it. So it takes over on Tumblr. People are drawing memes. People are making edits. People are putting the Babadook on a rainbow pride background. It's just wonderful, and people are saying how the Babadook is now this queer icon. I even made a meme featuring the feminist librarians from Portlandia, where at the start it says, "Tony, I'm so Baba shook," and then the reply is, "It's the Baba shake."
That's great.
And that did pretty well on Tumblr. And I think it was just such a weird time, because it's like, why the fuck is the Babadook of all things here? Why is the Babadook taking off?
It immediately made sense to me. It was like, yes, of course, the Babadook is a gay icon. Yes, of course. I saw Babadooks at Pride like that year even.
I think that's part of like what made it so popular as that queer icon, because it was like, why is the Babadook a queer icon? And then it's like, wait, the Babadook kind of is a queer icon.
Of course.
And I think, we're all having like a good time about it and making all of our memes. But I do also remember that there was discourse with people saying, like, what does it mean when we have this horrible manifestation of grief monster that wants to eat a child as a gay icon? Like, what does that mean? But I think that there's something to the joke that we should take seriously, because also that's a long legacy of like child-eating monsters that have been queer-coded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're referring to the Baba discourse that then followed of, should we really be heralding this creature because we don't want people to villainize queer folks?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I'm going to take 1d4 points of psychic damage because you said Baba discourse.
Listen, I am citing an academic journal here about online communities, for online queer communities that I found referenced it as the Baba discourse. It also, though, appeared in many, many popular media.
And yet I'm still getting like a headache. There's a nosebleed.
Sorry.
It's just the whole thing.
You made me watch this film. I will make you suffer through academic Twitter. I also want to say, though, that everyone who uses it is using the picture of the Babadook that is smiling from the novel.
Mm-hmm.
When Amelia's character reads aloud, "He looks funny, don't you think?" And it is cute with a boa and fun flamingo glasses, and a shirt that says "Too gay to Baba shook" or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
These are cute. This is a cute image. I like this. And I saw some awesome pictures from Pride in the Philippines of 2017 of people who chose to wear the Babadook mask because they didn't want their identity to be told at Pride, because they loved this character, they loved the meme, and it gave them a sense of anonymity.
I love that.
That is so cool.
Yeah. It's also bitchin' photos, just bitchin'
for sure.
photos.
I think, listen, you can say whatever you want about the Baba discourse and all of that nonsense. I think you could say whatever you want about, and there are some very good conversations that could be had about that. I think, especially during Pride, it is a very important fact that it is a responsibility of queer people to be as incomprehensible to heterosexuals as possible, and having the Babadook be a queer icon is enormously successful at that.
Well, then we're going to brandish a beautiful allyship letter to film creator Jennifer Kent, because when she was interviewed by online magazine Bloody Disgusting, while she was actually promoting her film at Sundance, The Nightingale. They asked what she thought about the meme, and she said, "I love that. I think it's crazy, and it just keeps him alive. I thought, that bastard, he doesn't want to die, so he's finding ways to become relevant." And like, what a gracious way of responding to actually a pretty shitty question while you're promoting your new film, to be like, "Hey, isn't it funny that the Babadook is a queer icon?" And so, like, props to you, girl, because that's incredible.
Yeah, no, she's great.
But I also love that in the same interview, she was like, "Hey, and by the way, didn't you think it was funny when Jordan Peele retold the story of my movie through emojis only on Twitter?" And I'm like, queen, I love that.
Yeah.
That is so great. Like, I looked at that tweet afterwards, and I'm like, don't wonder he's a genius. Like, this is so good.
I'm going to be honest.
Inscrutable.
I
if you
saw
haven't
that
seen the
tweet
film.
when it was making the rounds the first time. I was on Twitter for a long time. I'm back now because, like the Babadook, I refuse to die.
Marilee's back, y'all. You can't get rid of her.
I can't. Somehow I've returned.
Wow, talk about a scary movie. Last thing on pop media that I want to go over is the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, in the year of our Lord 2022, used the Babadook as one of the parodies for its Treehouse of Horror. That would be 33. Also included a parody of Death Note and Westworld. Mm-hmm. I watched it just for this conversation. It was wild because I'm rewatching Simpsons in season 9. Kavner obviously carries it because she plays the mother to Maggie. Mm-hmm. But it is a pretty one-on-one parody. Did either of you get a chance to check this out?
I'm going to be honest. I was going to, and then it was my birthday yesterday, so I did forget.
Can't. Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, so I was also going to watch it, but then I remembered it's Marilee's birthday, so I couldn't.
Wow. I look like the shitty friend now.
No.
Because I was like, I'm going to watch The Simpsons.
Please watch The Simpsons. I want you to watch The Simpsons. If you hadn't watched The Simpsons, there would be no one to discuss it, and that would be a crime.
I will tell both of you and listeners, it is a great parody. Mm-hmm. It's pretty intense to watch Marge Simpson with a knife coming at Maggie, even in a Halloween episode.
Yeah, I bet.
David, can I ask a question about The Simpsons?
Yeah.
So, we're part of the Glitterjaw Network. Does every episode of a Glitterjaw podcast have to include a reference to The Simpsons? Because if so, I need to start watching more Simpsons.
That, and I'll eventually have to bring up George W. Bush. That is the other requirement for all podcasts that we do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to the Bush connections. Seven degrees of
I'm
separation.
not. I don't want that, but I think I'll have to suffer.
Well, let's not put ourselves in the 90s. Let's put ourselves in 2014, and let's talk very specifically about the major story beats of this episode so that we can take a deeper dive and a deeper queer reading into the 2014 film by Jennifer Kent, The Babadook. The film begins in a distorted memory of the main character, Amelia, reliving a car accident as the distant voice of her son Samuel wakes her. He's had a bad dream, and she goes to check for monsters. We see her reading him the story, The Three Little Pigs, and in the end, Samuel ends up sleeping in her bed with her. I liked the Three Little Pigs being the story that's told, because at the end, Samuel's like, "I'm going to kill the big bad wolf." And obviously this story deals with a monster that is unkillable.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
I think it's kind of interesting, too, that the nightmare that Samuel has that triggers the reading of the book, it's either a manifestation of the Babadook's influence, like it's already started to take root, because clearly this is a house that has been dealing with grief for a while.
Yeah.
Or if it's just an unconnected coincidence from the Babadook entirely. I think that one kind of folds more into a reading that the Babadook is just Amelia this whole time. But I still think it's kind of fascinating to think like that there is this little bit of ambiguity, because we don't know, is this a recurring thing for Samuel? Is this a one-off? He's clearly got a very vivid imagination, so there's a lot of possibilities.
That's so interesting. See, I was going to hold this conversation for the end, because this is the thing that I thought about most the first time. Like, obviously, a lot has changed for me since then, so there are a lot more things for me to dwell on. But the thing that I remember thinking about most post-watching The Babadook was, what exactly was it? And how was it, like, manifested or summoned or anything? And I always to me, like, the reading was like, it wasn't the Babadook. That nightmare had nothing to do with the Babadook. I just thought another nightmare, whatever. And the Babadook didn't show up until like the book happened. So if you are saying potentially this nightmare was the Babadook, or was it all Amelia, like, what do you guys think the Babadook is? How does it work? Because this is the thing that I've thought about a lot.
Trying to get an answer for like how the book came into their possession. When does the book activate? Is it upon reading? These are things that I both don't know the answer for, and in the end am sort of comfortable in that ambivalence. Like I finished the film after a couple watches feeling very, very comfortable that I'm never going to get these answers from this story. And who knows if Kent herself has answers to these questions, because I don't know that the mechanics of how it worked were ever something that were part of the short film that she did before this, or any of her writings when this was actually a story that was just about grief and not about monsters, which was the like first draft.
I agree. I think the ambiguity is really part of what makes it so interesting and scary. We talked a little bit in the beginning about how this movie almost doesn't feel totally like a horror movie until the Babadook shows up, and I think that's part of what makes it so scary, is that there is clearly more going on that we don't see. There is a whole 7 years of Samuel's life that we miss out on. We don't see how that grief manifests, but it's clearly there from the very beginning of the film. So yeah, I'm with you on that, David. I think I'm comfortable with the ambiguity.
I personally, I love the ambiguity, and this is a thing that you will find that I do a lot, is I like to think about stuff in a way that I know that the creator does not care or want me to, but I like to think about the mechanics. I like to ponder and like try and fit the pieces together, because that's fun for me. Like, this is a joy that I have. So that's totally fair. If you've never considered, don't worry about it. I'll just keep those thoughts till the end.
I guess I do think that, I guess in my first watch, because I was thinking about all of this, I did totally get the read that this is just part of Samuel's shtick. He wants some additional attention from his mother, whose grief has probably taken her away from him. His behavioral problems reinforce that to me, because I worked with kids with behavioral problems. And so I could also see Sam picking up and bringing home the book that maybe was attracted to his feeling neglected, and that's how it got into their home in the first place. Or that it just manifested, like Amelia's grief compounded and compounded and compounded, and she shot out a book, like, both make sense to me.
Okay.
But I don't think anyone would be, like, I think all theories hold water on this one.
I agree.
I'm going to say, personally, I don't think that this is the Babadook, like, manifesting this early nightmare. And, like, I honestly don't even know that, like, I think that that's a really good reading, David, about, like, the grief taking Amelia away. I do think that that's true in a lot of ways. But I have a niece and nephew that I love desperately with my whole heart. I would die for these kids. I would kill for these kids. Earlier this year, my sister, like, she and her husband took their first vacation without the kids in their entire lives. And I watched them for like 4 or 5 days, just by myself. It was me and the kids the whole time. And like, I cannot overstate how much I love these kids. I would do literally anything for them. By the end of the last day, the thought of going home to my own bed and being able to exist without someone touching me for 5 minutes had me in literal tears. So, like, to me, it's now, and like even more now than it was then, like, him going to his mom's bed and getting it, that just seems like normal child behavior to me. Like, maybe a little bit more dialed up, because I do think that, like, I have a lot of thoughts about what's going on with Samuel mentally, but to me, that just is like, yep, that's a kid who wants his mom, totally normal.
Well, let's take a look at some of the, like, the next few scenes of, quote unquote normalcy in this life. So we see Amelia's daily life. She's waking up to take care of the rambunctious Samuel and working at a convalescent home. At work, Amelia gets a call to come to school, and we learn that Samuel's misbehavior at school has been ongoing. We also learn from an awkward interaction that Samuel's father died in a car accident on the way to the hospital to give for Amelia to give birth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, huge props here to Noah Weissman, who plays Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
He is annoying as a young boy, calling frequently to his mother at the park. We see him kind of being obnoxious in the car.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of is saying what's on his mind, which is a very kid thing to do at the supermarket, where he tells a random stranger, yeah, my dad's not here because he's in the graveyard. Like just great acting, great direction of Weissman. I read something very interesting, and I think it was Hollywood Reporter, about the ways in which they would like move him off set when they were doing some of the scene, some of the filming, because they didn't want him to be traumatized by some of the things that they were doing, especially some of the things that Amelia had to do with her acting.
And I really love that throughout, and this is something that we'll definitely like keep coming back to later as Amelia's mental state deteriorates, but even though Samuel is a very convincingly annoying child, and I think pretty realistic for a child that is clearly going
100%.
through it, Amelia still demonstrates her love by insisting that the administrators at his school call him by his name. I feel like this is a very like old stodgy British thing for administrators at a school, and this kind of looks like, I don't know how Australian schooling looks like, but to me this looks like a pretty nice school. The administrators are calling him the boy. The boy is acting up. The boy is behaving this way. The boy is becoming a problem for other students. And Amelia says he has a name. His name is Samuel. And I think that's something that the Amelia that we see later in the film would not do. But in spite of the, I think, initial gut reaction, especially from parents who see this movie, is to see Amelia as someone who's like really frustrated, and we get the seeds at her being like, I won't say like abusive, but like relatively antagonistic to Samuel later in the film. That would withdraw a lot of sympathy from that audience by having Amelia say like, his name is Samuel, please call him by his name, or not even please, she's telling them call him by his name. It buys us back into that feeling of sympathy. Amelia is still a loving mother in spite of the fact that she is dealing with a child with behavioral problems, and you know, it's good. It's good to see that Amelia is still here.
That night, after the usual inspection under the bed and in the closet, Amelia invites Samuel to pick up a book to read, and he brings a book that Amelia doesn't recognize, Mr. Babadook. She reads it aloud while Samuel interacts with the book. Quickly, the book scares Samuel, and Amelia switches to a different one, but the damage is done. Samuel is afraid, and Amelia has to sleep in his bed, where she gets little to no rest. She gets out of bed, goes to put the book out of reach, and then she watches television.
So, I mean, the interaction with the flip book, and at first Samuel being very playful with it, like he tugs on something and the Babadook moves, or he opens the cabinet and it says ba ba ba, Duke Duke Duke. You know, it's fun, it's playful, it's the way you would expect a book to be for a child, except that it does not look like a book for children.
I love that even like early on in the reading of the book, Amelia is just like, why don't we switch to something else? Because she knows like there's something up with this book. This is not a book for children.
Well, I mean, lots of kids' stuff are really weird, so I don't think it looks exactly like a book for kids, but I wouldn't have... I read a lot of books. Like, a child will hand me a book and I will read that book. I probably would have read this one. I'm going to be a completely hundo P with you.
That's fair. I was babysitting our neighbor's kid, and he brought over a book about like anthropomorphic dump trucks, and I read it to him. And I remember thinking to myself, like to me, this is terrifying because trucks shouldn't talk. But he seemed delighted, and he went awooga when they went awooga. And like honestly, isn't that all kids really want?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
To say awooga.
That's what an adult wants too, David. Awooga, especially when like a semi truck like blows the horn. Like,
awooga. Yeah.
It's so fun.
There are very few joys greater as a child than when you're on a road trip and you like do the honk at a trucker and they do the honk. It's amazing.
It's very cool.
Truckers out there who are listening to the podcast, make a child happy today.
Please do. So I don't know about you all. Like, I totally relate to Samuel in the sense of, oh yeah, I really want to read this thing, and it's kind of scary looking, and the parents just like, I don't know, and then you do it, and then you regret it. When I was in elementary school, it was like Halloween time, and I guess the teacher was like, okay, for show and tell, you can bring in stuff for Halloween. And this kid brought in a CD that had a whole bunch of Halloween songs on them, and they were meant for children. Mm-hmm. But I think there was this one that was about like a pizza delivery driver who would eat your brains when he came to deliver pizza, and he would always find you. And that scared the ever-loving shit out of me.
Yeah.
And I was having trouble going to sleep. And I remember telling my mom about it. And then I was raised Catholic, like loosely. And my mom was just like, okay, wear this rosary. It's got holy water from when you were baptized, and it's going to keep you safe. And, it put me to sleep, at the very least. I didn't get eaten by a pizza delivery truck driver, but like...
Well, thank God.
Yeah, thank God. I wouldn't be here. But yeah, it's kind of fun that there's, like, we take objects and apply some sort of significance to them, especially when we're kids. And... like, I kind of wish Samuel had a similar opportunity for Amelia to be like, okay, well, take this, little necklace thingy and wear it, and then you'll be safe from the Babadook, But who knows if that would really work. Maybe Amelia has tried that in the past, or even Amelia didn't think to do it because she's already going through the early stages of sleep deprivation.
I also wonder, Tyler... because this is a really interesting thing, and I just thought this was not premeditated, but you bringing that up, that she doesn't give him like a teddy bear or a rosary or anything to sort of comfort him, is also reflected in the fact that Samuel has created his own protection with these Kevin McAllister-esque little traps and gizmos that he has made to protect her. And so I think that there's this, like, who is protecting who is a great question to be asking yourself while you watch this movie.
That's an excellent point. Yeah,
absolutely. I crochet as a hobby. I picked it up a long time ago because I wanted to be able to make baby blankets for my sister's kids, especially she has arthritis. It develops as like a post-cancer survivorship thing. She made a bunch of stuff for my nephew when he was born. But when my niece was born, she couldn't really like crochet anymore. She couldn't do anything with her hands like that. And so I made her a bunch of baby blankets. I've made my nephew blankets. I've made blankets. And I always tell the kids that, this has magic in it. If you lie under this blanket, a monster can't get you. 'Cause my nephew was really into cryptids for a while. And like, then he got really scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that same sort of thing. And I think it's useful to give kids like tools to protect themselves, like from the things in their own minds. And I hadn't even thought to connect that to this.
Right. Well, before we move on to the next scene, I want to talk a little bit about Amelia being in front of the TV, because she's in the front of the TV a bit. I think that this is an auteur's way of telling you, here's some of the symbolism going on in my film. When she watches television, she's watching a commercial about this woman seductively eating chocolate while she very sadly eats the same chocolate. She watches an advertisement for an adult sex line and then a romantic scene between a man and a woman. And I think Amelia's got longing here. And there is a lot of guilt associated with that longing. Guilt that she's no longer with Oscar, her husband, who we will learn, died, or I guess we learned from Samuel already is dead. Guilt that she should be taking care of her son instead of doing this. And then that becomes manifest when she goes back to her room. She pulls out a vibrator, begins using it, and then gets interrupted by Samuel, who thinks that she's being attacked by something because she's pleasuring herself.
Yikes. Kids, man.
And I think it's also cool because, not cool. It's sad that she can't do that.
So
but
cool.
It's so rare to see a mother figure be sexual in a way that's not depraved. Especially in a horror movie. Normally, whenever we see a mother figure, there's something wrong with her. Like Jason's mom in Friday the 13th, she's gonna be the one to try and kill all the camp counselors because they're too busy having sex.
Spoiler alert for me later in this podcast.
Sorry. Spoiler alert. Retroactively for the 40-year-old movie, everybody.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the trope. I got it. Women sex horror movie bad. Men sex horror movie few consequences.
Exactly. And so we see that she wants it in a very healthy way
Mm-hmm.
because she doesn't have her husband. Maybe she's not on any sort of app to go out with anyone because she's busy being a single mom. But she can't even use a vibrator. And I think that's really sad. And I think that really is empathetic for many members of the audience that are watching,
Mm-hmm.
that society says, in a way, the parent role must come before like the sexual needs of the specific parent.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You must be a mother before you can be a woman.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really fascinating. But we also see that this is not necessarily like she's being punished for her misdeeds. It's not society saying, oh, now you have to be possessed by the Babadook because you want to have sex. It's instead just like, she cannot catch a break. This poor woman just cannot catch a break. And the fact that it's her son that is interrupting her just compounds and complicates our emotions, because on the one hand, we feel for her, we want her to be happy, but at the same time, she has to be responsible for her son.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
I do also think it's a really great through line because they do a lot of really cool stuff with the television later.
Oh yeah.
So I like straight up, like the first time I watched this like a decade ago, as well as when I watched it the first time this time, I was not paying attention to what was on the television the first time. Like it doesn't even occur to me to like actually look at the TV until I saw your note, and then I watched it again and I was like, that is so smart. Like the way that Jennifer Kent like uses the television to really accentuate her point at all times, I think is so smart.
Yep.
It's very interesting. It's without getting too deep into it, because I know we also want to talk about more of the movie. We're really excited. I think the television does kind of provide a liminal space where things that should not be are.
Mm-hmm.
And so we see the television, there are people having sexual satisfaction and romantic satisfaction. Amelia cannot have that. Later on, we see very strange, surreal things coming out of the television. It's part of like what is real, what is imaginary. And I think, you know, it's really cool how Kent uses the TV as a tool to explain that. But we'll get more into that in a little bit. For right now, we see Amelia wake up the next morning. She wakes up late. She has to call in late to work and take Samuel to her sister's house. At work, it's clear that Amelia is stressed and exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Her coworker Robbie offers to cover for her, and she takes the afternoon for herself. When she finally picks up her son, her sister Claire says he scared her daughter Ruby by talking incessantly about the Babadook after being told, do not bring up the Babadook.
You know, as you do. I think that this scene, like specifically, like this little bit in particular is so interesting to me because it really compounds everything. Like this is all before the Babadook starts to get like serious. But you can even see like the way that when she sleeps in, she calls her boss and like says, sorry, my kid was sick. I couldn't even get to the phone because he was vomiting so hard. And she drops him off at her sister's because the previous day he had been expelled from school. And so like she's very clear she wants to make sure that like her Claire can watch him and everything. And then she goes to work and Robbie offers to cover her for her because he thinks her son is sick at home. And instead of, and I love the scene of Amelia alone because this is the first time in the film we really see Amelia doing anything for herself, and then it immediately blows up in her face because as she gets like in the car, she looks and sees like 12 missed calls from her sister Claire because she's put up like fed up with Samuel, and like when she gets there, Samuel is sitting outside in the driveway because Claire doesn't want him to interact with her daughter anymore. And she even says that like she called work, where were you? I've been calling you. And it's so destroying. Everything about this for Amelia is like the worst case scenario. And my heart goes out to her. My heart goes out to Samuel, who is just like clearly a little boy who has like this hyper focus and wants to talk about this thing that's really like on his mind, and no one else is understanding at all like his concerns. And like we'll talk more about like Claire and her daughter and stuff later, but like I even understand where they're coming from. I think that the way that she treats Samuel is abhorrent. Like you shouldn't make a kid sit outside in the driveway in Australia. I don't know at what point in the year this is, but probably it's hot. Just because it's everything's so much, you know?
It is a lot.
Everything happens so much.
Yeah.
Everything happens so much. I do like that we actually, I mean, we see good parenting from Amelia here. She, you know, he does magic. That's one of Samuel's things. He used a firecracker in a way that was very aggressive. And it is a behavior that needs to be curbed. She asks him where he got the firework, and he like snottily replies, "You ordered it for me on the internet." And she says, "Well, that's the end of the internet." Queen. I mean, it's a very believable back and forth, but what she's trying to do is administer an appropriate discipline for a child who's made a behavioral mistake. It's good parenting, but it is under the veil of a very tired mother.
Absolutely.
Do you think it's still good parenting for her to say, "Do not bring up the Babadook"?
I'm
not saying that judgmentally of her either. I'm literally just asking, do you think it's okay for a parent to ask that?
It's hard. It's really hard to like thread a needle on there. Because like the thing is, she is dropping her son off at her sister's because he was expelled from school. And she also tells Samuel not to tell Claire, his Auntie Claire, that he's been expelled. Because she needs somebody to watch her kid, and she cannot go to work without this happening, and she cannot bring him to school. And this is like a repeated thing where he's talks about monsters, and like very specifically the Babadook here, but he talks about monsters a lot. And this is a thing that like Claire has said, "Don't bring up monsters, you're scaring my kid." What else are you supposed to do than reinforce you cannot talk about this with Claire? And I don't remember the sister's kid's name. And like
Ruby.
What? Ruby. Okay, thank you. So like it's hard. It's so much about parenting. And again, I'm not a parent. I do not want to become a parent. But it just seems like everything has to be on a case by case basis.
Yeah. Well, you know what it strikes me as is let's just, because we're a queer media podcast, let's turn this a little bit differently from don't talk about the Babadook. You've recently been expelled from school. You're having behavioral issues. The only person who can watch you is my sister, and she's homophobic. Don't tell Auntie Claire that you're gay. Would be both toxic advice for a child, and if that was the only safe place for them to be, very intelligent advice to give a child.
Absolutely.
And so it feels like in this instance, using that analogy, there is no win for Amelia, which is great. That's great for because it's the whole point of the movie. There is not good parenting she can do vis-a-vis the Babadook. I also feel like then if you're going to interpret the Babadook as grief, then we've got it in spades, because Amelia is telling people all over the place, not to mention Oscar. And so if you replace the word the Babadook with "don't talk about your dead dad," I think it would also work for her character. So it feels synergistic with the character. It feels fair. Does it feel like good parenting? No, but I think that's a zero-sum situation.
Yeah, for sure. David, that's so smart. You're so smart. I love that.
I do too. I think that's...
You're both very kind. I was just raised in a toxic home. It's just trauma, friends. It's not intelligent.
It could be both. More than one thing could be true. Also, sorry about it.
Look at where your toxic home led you to. Now you're doing like multiple podcasts where you could channel that toxicity into talking about cool media.
Yeah. I could be paying a therapist, but instead I have other people listen to me for free. So there you go.
Yeah. Willingly, too. Hopefully.
By choice.
I don't think anyone's being forced to listen to Glitterjaw at gunpoint. And hopefully not our podcast. I think all of that is wonderful points. I think also the dynamic between Claire and Amelia reminds me a lot of Fleabag. If you've seen Fleabag, that is very much a common relationship is between the main character Fleabag and her sister, who I think is also named Claire.
I believe so.
I've not
seen the show, but I've seen a lot of clips from it on the internet.
I believe it is Claire. Claire is also one of the few named people in Fleabag. Everyone else has some sort of like epithet or title. So I think this is really just coincidence, but the dynamic reminds me of Fleabag between like the very stressed out main protagonist sister and the very professional, she's got her life together sister. And clearly there is an animosity going on between them. Amelia seems kind of embarrassed about the state of her life. She doesn't know how to really interact. And of course, Samuel is stressing her out. Meanwhile, Claire is like, Ruby is my whole life. Ruby is everything. But we also see Claire is very put together. She looks nice. Her hair is done. Mm-hmm. The house itself looks very beautiful. It lets a lot of light in. And then we're spending, more time outdoors in scenes with Claire and Ruby. So that's not the claustrophobia of the house that we see with Amelia and Samuel. Mm-hmm. I also am, but I was raised an only child. So to me, I don't know if this is like a very realistic representation of like a sister dynamic. Mary Lee, can you kind of like tell me, does this seem pretty real?
Listen, I have an unrealistic standard of sisters because both of mine are fantastic. And that cannot be said by everybody. So I don't know about how much insight I can potentially give on that one. But yeah, it seems normal. Again, like, it's been 7 years, I think, of everything going on with Amelia. I feel like if after 7 years of putting up with your sister, who is clearly doing a lot of toxic stuff for herself and like holding stuff in, as well as her son now endangering my daughter, I feel like it seems pretty reasonable. I do think there's like an unexamined Z-axis that we have here of class that we maybe should talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically regarding Claire and Amelia. Because it really seems like Claire is doing a lot better financially, and I think all of Claire's mom friends are doing a lot better financially than how Amelia is doing. And I think that is also a thing that you could really read into a lot of her interactions with Claire, as well as everything going around I could talk, hold on. Going on around Claire is like this unspoken financial situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, we're not going to turn this into a geopolitical podcast, but a little bit has to do with it being set in Adelaide, where there is a wealth disparity between the working class and sort of the professional class, and then the ultra rich. Mm-hmm. So think the United States, but maybe not quite as spaced out. Mm-hmm. Adelaide is a great representative of that, as sort of there's old wealth that's been growing. Claire may be married into that, or she has a professional job, versus Amelia, who is working a trade. She is either a licensed vocational nurse, or she is there as another caretaker in the convalescent home.
Yeah, as well as the fact that, like, obviously, I think maybe Claire is a stay-at-home mom. But maybe I don't know, maybe she has a job, and so it's like a 2-parent household versus a 1-parent household. Like, she's not able to provide as much, maybe and she has probably a lower paying job. I think all of that is important to keep in mind.
Well, that night at dinner, it's clear that the day's events have caused tension between Amelia and her son Samuel. While she is eating her soup that she's made for both of them, she finds shards of glass in it, which Samuel insists was done by the Babadook. She tries to take away the homemade weapon that Samuel has made, and he yells at her, "Do you want to die?" Amelia sits downstairs completely stressed out when she hears a noise up in Samuel's room. She runs quickly to him and sees that the wardrobe has fallen, and the book that she placed on top of it, Mr. Babadook, has fallen as well. She goes to the book, opens it, tears out its pages, and puts it in the trash.
So there's a lot going on in this scene.
So much. Everything happens so much.
Can we talk about this soup?
Oh my god. What?
I want to talk about this soup.
Okay, is it a soup? Like, the first time I looked at it, I honestly thought it was like a gruel or some sort of like really horribly made grits or something. I don't know what this is. No, actually, I do know what this is. That's a struggle meal. That's we do not have money, but we have to eat something. Here's like literally just something with calories, so you can eat something, but I cannot afford to make you more, which is heartbreaking.
Yeah, and I think the meal is also like a good example of how grief has like fully taken hold of this household, especially by this point now that we have more direct influence from the Babadook. There's no joy or flavor in this house anymore. That gruel, that soup is white and sad looking, and the texture of it just looks awful, and it's representative of the mental state of the characters and the family as a whole. There's just no chance at happiness. I thought
it looked good.
Yeah, no, I'm so sorry. Can you just say that again? Because the sentence, there's no joy or flavor in this household anymore. Like, I had to, like, sit down, like, and I was already seated. I'm, like, more seated now. Because are you kidding me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that was, like, I put that in the notes because I was watching the movie, and I'm just like, God, that looks dreadful. Wait.
See?
And yeah, it's
sentence.
Clear that. Thank you.
Well
there's...
noted, and absolutely the intent of the author. I 100% agree with you. I thought the soup looked good.
Oh my God,
because I am a joyless eater. I just like food. Like, I don't need salt or anything. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
I mean,
looked good.
It could be Samuel. I know that like kids a lot of the time sometimes they don't enjoy a lot of things with different flavors or textures. So like it's possible
this was just Australian chicken fingers.
Yeah, so like maybe it's something that he likes and like she can't, and she's just eating the same thing because it's easier for her to cook one meal than like do two things, like one thing that her son will eat and one thing that she'll eat. But like in either case, like it's just this bowl of white wet something, and I think also some white bread on the side. Awful, horrible.
Yeah,
David is rubbing his tummy in a hungry, yummy.
You would drink Soylent, wouldn't you? You're a Soylent.
I totally would eat Soylent. My problem isn't that it's people. My problem would probably be that it was too spicy.
Oh my God.
Here's the situation. I love it for the reason that Tyler brought up, that it is representative of this loss of joy and the way that grief has taken over for them. I also love it from a practical perspective because you got to hide some glass in it, so you need an opaque soup. I love that this is working on a technical level as well, and I find the idea of taking a soup that looks very light and fluffy and airy and flavorless and putting it in your mouth and having glass there, that was I eeped at this. I did not care for that.
It's not good.
I think this is the first time in the movie that we have overt horror manifesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's handled very quietly. Mm-hmm. We kind of discover the glass in the dish alongside Amelia. Mm-hmm. And there's not like a big like sudden screech of the music or anything like Psycho. Instead, it's just like, oh my God, there's glass in this.
Yeah.
And it's just like the sudden dawning. And then Samuel says, like, the Babadook did that. And I think, again, we can kind of talk about, like, did Amelia do this? Is Samuel trying to play the long game? He's secretly an evil genius by putting glass in the dish. I don't think it's that one. Or is the Babadook, in this case, a literal entity doing this to the soup? So I think it's kind of cool to think about, like, who is the one who put the glass in there.
Or potentially, is there no glass at all? And that Amelia, like, if she's having this breakdown, maybe, like, she is seeing and feeling something that's not there. Like, that pops up again later. So maybe this is the first instance of it. I hadn't really considered that before, but just, maybe. Who could say?
That's another good point, too, because something we haven't addressed, like, at all is that Amelia throughout the movie is having dental issues.
Yep.
She is having a tooth pain that she eventually does something gross with later in the movie. But, it's something that just kind of like, we see her rubbing the side of her mouth. She's like putting her tongue against where the pain is. And now suddenly here's something that is directly causing oral pain. Mm-hmm. Right. And, I think Kent made a very specific decision when she said, I'm going to put glass in the soup and cause more suffering for Amelia who's already going through it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it works on many levels. The fact that Amelia is having dental issues and mouth issues at this point. And then I think something that's also really cool about this movie is just how, because this is the first time that we're actually having like an overt turn to horror, we've been tense for the entire movie up to this point because of this dramatic relationship between the mother and son. And it's really cool that Kent is able to do that. Like, part of me would like to see a version of this movie that doesn't have the Babadook as a literal presence, and it's all just kind of like a psychological drama,
Right.
Between a mother and son. But at this point, I think it's really cool just to see the way Kent is clearly in control of what it is that she's trying to tell.
That's a really good point. I also just want to point out that the knocked over wardrobe is in the Babadook book, so that's a fun little bit of foreshadowing there.
That's right.
As well as, like, if the Babadook is in the book, him knocking over the wardrobe on top of Samuel in that way is a great way to, like, physically reintroduce himself into the narrative.
And then, because we are fair to Amelia, but I want to make sure that we don't lose this. When she gets glass in her mouth, the first thing she does is pull the bowl away from Samuel.
Well, no, I look at that as like a mom thing of like, there is glass in my food. I have to get this away from my son. Is there glass in his food?
Right, because she thinks it's in the pot. And then when she only finds it in hers, or again, to Marilee, your point, she only finds it in air quotes in hers because it is hallucination of hers. And Samuel is just watching on being like, the fuck is happening?
Well, no, he does see the glass as well. So it could just be like a folie à deux here.
Oh, that's right.
But he
That's
like
right,
he sees it and says the Babadook did that.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
The next day, a tired Amelia and Samuel go to Claire's for Ruby's birthday with the other moms. It is clear that Amelia does not fit in. Outside, Ruby bullies Samuel. He pushes her out of the treehouse and she falls on her face. On the car ride home, Amelia snaps with Samuel and he begins to seize after saying that he sees the Babadook in the back seat. A doctor does some tests and he says, like, he says a lot of fancy things, but it basically boils down to, like, his anxiety is overheating his brain. Amelia begs. She begs for a sedative prescription for him.
Yeah, talk about a lot going on here as well. The bullying of Ruby to Samuel is... It's realistic, but it is intense. She is telling him the worst things in the world, and I don't believe that this is hallucination. I believe this is actively happening.
Oh no, that 100% happened.
Children
Kids
are
are
just like
really
this. Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
And I think also it's like really stressful because I don't think you could have Samuel and Ruby are cousins, but they're also frequently interact with each other almost like siblings, and my god, you can be very mean to your sibling, and just like clearly as much as like Claire doesn't like Samuel and Ruby interacting, like I bet like Ruby has picked up on that, and this is her birthday party, and this and she's clearly having her princess dreams like happen as what, and just Samuel is here and he's hiding in the treehouse away from everybody else, and she just comes up and she has her say, and Samuel reacts, and it's not a great way to react, but it is a fair reaction, especially for a child who has behavioral issues already. Like, you should never hit or push her, especially not out of a treehouse, but all of that was completely realistic.
I think it's also interesting, too, that this birthday party was originally for Samuel and Ruby, because they make a point earlier in the film that Ruby does not want to have a shared birthday with Samuel anymore, and Claire, in a moment of real sympathy, in a way, says, like, I was really hoping Ruby would change her mind, but she's pretty set on this.
Right.
So I think, like, you really got to feel bad for Samuel in this scene. Like, he is clearly going through it, and I think it's it starts to become the time where Samuel goes from being a very annoying just child to now he's becoming another protagonist in this film who has his own arc. He's going through his own crises, and he's going to have his own development to eventually reach like where he needs to be by the end of the film. So yeah, it's really rough. I think something that's really interesting is that scene with Amelia and the doctor. It reminds me quite a bit of The Exorcist. Ellen Bernstein, who plays Regan's mother in that film, is first of all just a phenomenal legendary actress. But in that movie, I don't think it's enough credit for creating a mother figure who is going through a lot of horror and trauma on her own, minus the supernatural influence. The fact that there is a confirmed supernatural influence in that movie is almost antithetical to the actual drama that her character is going in through most of the movie. Most of the movie is the horror of a parent who doesn't know what's wrong with her child. And there is a lot of medical horror in that movie.
Absolutely.
They do a spinal tap that I think is more frightening than like the pea soup from Reagan. And to see a child have to go through that, especially Linda Blair, who's this cute, adorable little creature in the movie before she's turned, it's rough. And in the Babadook, we see that flipped. Amelia is the one who is sort of being quote unquote medicated by having her son literally be medicated. By medicating Samuel, it prevents her from having to say, please give me sedatives, doctor, I can't sleep. So now she's taking care of the problem, where the problem is her son having legitimate emotional reactions to something that she can no longer handle. And so in The Exorcist, we see the mother is clearly very sympathetic for the daughter. In the Babadook, we see that the mother is acting, I'm going to say unsympathetic, but I see where she's coming from. But either way, it's seen in a more negative light for Amelia to be doing this. We see that this is kind of part of a manifestation of the Babadook, because now it's just giving in and saying, like, I cannot deal with the role of being a mother anymore. Please take this away from me.
Interesting. That's really interesting. I hadn't really considered that. Like, when I watched that scene, I just see somebody who is, again, she's clearly at her limit. Like, the way that she sits in that, like, and talks about this with the doctor, like, she is at her limit in a lot of ways. And I do think that she's not sleeping, and that's awful. But Samuel's also not sleeping well, because he is constantly up with nightmares. And if your kid's awake with nightmares, you are also awake. You can't fall asleep when your kid is demanding your attention, because he is also scared. And I don't think her asking for sedatives is a great move, but his brain's cooking because of anxiety. Like, he's gotta sleep. I get it. Like, I don't think it's a good choice, but it is a choice that she's making in this moment because she can't think of anything else to do.
I think something else that I want to bring up too is how queer a lot of this reading is, or a lot of scenes in this movie can be read as. Samuel is not allowed to be part of the princess party. The princess party has to only be Ruby, the girl. I'm not saying Samuel wants to have a princess party, but the fact that it is a princess party means by definition he cannot be part of it. Samuel is also teased relentlessly by Ruby, the princess. And so there is kind of like a power dynamic here of a very effeminate character, or someone that is characterized by her femininity, being mean and cruel to someone who, he's the hero, he's going to kill the Babadook, but here he is in the corner of a treehouse. And the only way that he can kind of regain that regain that balance is through an act of violence. So we see gender and gender norms kind of come into play here. And then, of course, we also see something that unfortunately happens a lot, which is, this is the scene where Amelia turns and snaps back at Samuel. Why can't you just be normal? And then he screams and then has a seizure. And my God, like, hopefully no one that's ever, no one's having a seizure because their parent is being abusive that's listening to this podcast. But, the fact that she says this and then that leads to a sudden increase in the drama that is going on between the two of them, I think really speaks to the queer experience of a parent who is not supportive, saying, why can't you just be normal? And that's probably one of the worst things a queer child could hear from their parent, who is meant to give love unconditionally, and here now there are conditions being applied.
That's really rough.
Right. Great read. Great read.
We kind of like glazed past it, but like in an earlier scene, while Samuel is having like a big reaction, Amelia says, "That's it, no birthday for you," and frames the way that like Ruby and Claire are not allowing this to be a joint birthday as a direct repercussion of Samuel's actions, which is such a shit move. Like, I have said a lot of stuff defending Amelia. That's fucking sucks. That's bad. And it's just her finding a way to explain that this isn't gonna be a joint birthday party without having to say they don't want it to be a joint birthday party. She just makes this as an excuse, and that's awful. That's horrible. That's such a bad thing to do.
She is putting the blame on Samuel for the choices that were made by other people.
That's right.
Well, and I also just need to remind the audience that the reason that there is a joint birthday is that Samuel's birthday is actually quite a few weeks from now, but it is on the anniversary of his father's death, and that is why Amelia doesn't want to celebrate Samuel's birthday. So then this all goes back again to the very nature of grief from Oscar's death.
After giving Samuel a sedative, they both sleep through the night and most of the morning. There's a knock at the door and Amelia opens it, finding no one. Another knock, louder this time, leads Amelia to discover a reconstructed Mr. Babadook book with new pages. The new scenes depict Amelia being possessed, killing their dog Bugsy, killing Samuel, and then killing herself. She sets the book on fire on the barbecue.
Wild scene. The music, or maybe more accurately, the noise that plays while she's reading this newly constructed Mr. Babadook book is excellent. It because when the cameras got the attention of the book, it's Amelia reading it. We get this background, and when she closes it at one point in time, it cuts to silence, and the noise / music immediately restarts when she reopens the book. Beautiful way of telling the story and building that unease.
Absolutely. There's so much going on in this scene and this part of the movie, but to me, like, if this was me, this is the point where things clearly become supernatural in this way, because if I am looking at this book, there's no way I'm manipulating those pop-up elements that are clearly happening. So, like, I understand why she keeps denying, but, like, in that moment, I'm like, something weird, something not natural is happening, because what the fuck? There's no way that she did that herself. Yeah. And yet it's clearly, like, she can see, like, the slit. Like, if you have a pop-up book that sees yourself killing your son and your dog and then yourself, would you be manipulating those pop-up elements?
No. But I would be willing to, I was on my first watch, I was still in the belief that this could be a manifestation of Amelia's psyche, that maybe she was imagining that the book had come back, that she was imagining these scenes, and that this sort of grief and resentment was making her see these things. Obviously, spoiler alert, we know that this book has actually come back and there's a malignant force in her life. But I was still on the Hitchcock edge. I was M. Night Shyamalaning this. Like, I didn't know what was real and what was not. And that's great filmmaking.
So I think that is still a legitimate reading of the entire film. I think the Hitchcock edge, is still present here because it's mentioned very briefly in the original scene where Amelia is with the other moms, that Amelia is a writer and she has written children's books. So I don't think it's entirely outside the realm of possibility to say Amelia reconstructed the Babadook or has a second Babadook that she has created, and she knows how to make all of these pop-up elements.
Wow.
But
Tyler, this is wild, because this theory holds water. Amelia is the author of Mr. Babadook.
That's so, I'd never
I'm going to say It is possible. It is possible. That's one of the wonderful things about this movie is that many of our interpretations are legitimate, and the Babadook is real. The Babadook is not real. The Babadook was created by Amelia, and now it's turned into a real thing. You know, it could be any one of these things. They're all valid, and I think that's one of the brilliant things that Kent does with this movie. But at the same time, a lot of that information is vague enough to allow us to fill in those plots.
Right.
And does it seem very realistic for Amelia, who has had no sleep, and we see that she has no sleep, to be able to create a book at this level of competency, that there are pop-ups that aren't just like, surprise, the Babadook sticking up out of a book. No, there's interactables, there's pull things, the little figures move. Like, there's a lot going on that you could still say, no, the Mr. Babadook book it's real and it's supernatural in nature. But I think it's also totally possible and okay to say Amelia's writing these.
Yeah,
that's wild. That's so wild. I love that.
I know, me too. I got very nervous watching the movie and then seeing that she killed Bugsy, and I'm like, oh no, the dog.
Yeah. Not the most nervous I was in Act 3, but we'll get there.
Things are obviously getting worse. The house has become messier. Dishes and pans are piling up. Amelia sees a roach and looks behind the fridge to discover a hole. And then roaches start pouring out of it. She is on a cleaning campaign when there's a knock at the door and some people from the Department of Community Services are behind it. She invites them in, explains the infestation she found, but when she goes to show them, there's no hole.
I love our notes about this scene.
Yeah, let's just each read what we wrote in a pre-planned document from left to right. No, I didn't like this at all.
Horrid. Hated this.
Deeply upsetting.
Like, these are things that we all know, but we decided to write them down in hopes that they would make us feel better. And to me, it did not make me feel better.
It did not.
Not in the least.
No.
You know what I do like is seeing Child Protective Services show up. Yay, my people have shown up to save the day.
Yeah, they're there to make sure, like, because Samuel, again, it's not that he's been out of school for 2 days, like she tries to say. It's like, no, the school has got him off their records. He is not enrolled there anymore, and she's got to do something about this. And I thought that was that was great.
Can we talk about the part with the school a little bit, actually?
Yeah.
So I know we've talked about in this podcast that Samuel's expelled from the school. Mm-hmm. If my memory is correct, which I'm very willing to say it may not be, I don't think they were saying we need to expel Samuel. I think they were saying the boy needs, like, additional assistance.
Yeah. No,
and then Amelia says, I'm taking him out of this school to go someplace where they will treat him better.
That's correct.
So I
think the framing we get is Amelia sort of treating it like an expulsion. Thank you. God, I don't know why that happened. Amelia's treating it like an expulsion to sort of save her cred, but it is sort of a willful decision she made because she didn't want what she identified as being a very harmful solution. And maybe it would have been, maybe it wouldn't have been. But it was enough to get the Department of Community Services to come and visit.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And this is clearly the worst time for this to happen.
She's if this is a supernatural infestation, like, she is going through it. If this is a psychotic break, she is going through it.
Yeah.
This is one for the books.
I worked in child welfare. I did site visit. I did home visits like this. Usually when I went into a home visit, there actually were bugs, which was one of the things that we evaluated on whether or not a child could remain in that space and be safe. And so when we were walking, it's like a tactic to say, oh, may I have some water, and then follow the person further into their home as part of an investigation. It's actually something that we were taught is to use that. So seeing that on the screen was very, like, you did your homework, or unfortunately,
so cool.
maybe know someone, like, and then her saying, like, oh, I'm having an infestation, I just had it sprayed, and then, like, good on Amelia to, like, turn mid-sentence and saying they were coming out of the hole in the wallpaper, because you can see a little damage to the wallpaper. And it's just, I don't know, very unnerving scene. But also, I think we as the audience get a little hope because the Department of Community Services said they'll be back in a week. So there's like this ticking salvation time clock that's going on, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think what I'm going to learn doing this podcast with both of you is that anytime a horror movie gives you that, it's going to create all these barriers to raise the conflict before that time hits.
David, I think actually that's a very unique perspective to have on this. And I'm so happy that we have you here with this experience, because I completely read it the opposite direction. To me, the Department of Community Services showing up is Amelia Red Alert saying, like, I need to get my shit together immediately or I'm going to lose my child.
Yeah, that's how I read it.
And them saying we'll be back in a week is less, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and more, the guillotine is about to fall if I don't get my shit together.
Wow. Okay.
So,
and that is because, of course, I saw myself in these people and I was like, I'm the good guy. I'm finally here to save you and Samuel.
Well, that's the thing, is that rationally, that is the case.
Yeah,
logically,
100%.
that is the case. And if this were in a real world scenario, that should be like what we hope for. But because we're watching this movie through the perspective of the people who are actually going through this trauma, the arrival of Department of Community Services is actually more of an indicator, from my perspective anyway, of, oh, shit's about to get real. There's now another existential threat beyond the Babadook eating my child. Now
Right.
it's that the Australian government could take my child from me, probably with good reason.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a part of you every time you interact with the government where you think, I've done a crime accidentally and they're going to throw me in jail forever. So like having the government show up and be like, hey, you're a mess, I'm gonna like fuck your entire shit up, I think is a very reasonable fear to be getting from that.
Also points to Kent for portraying the Department of Community Services as this not antagonistic force. Like, we're perceiving them as being antagonistic because we're being sympathetic to the main characters of the story, but they don't show up and make snide comments. They don't seem like really rude people. They don't seem very snooty or that they're looking to get Amelia in trouble. Instead, they are being passive observers and taking notes and trying to like protect this boy's rights, and all of those things are all really good. And I think it's just that demonstration of the story and the perspective that we're in, that we see them as a negative force. At least that's, I believe, the intention, as a negative force, in spite of them not seeing negative at all.
Yeah. Well, later that night, go ahead, Tyler.
I was also going to bring up the roaches.
Oh, please, let's talk more about the roaches.
They're bad.
Thrill me more.
So I really don't want to talk about the roaches because I hate roaches, but I feel like I have to talk about the roaches.
Tell me.
The roaches and the hole in the wall are not there when DCS comes by later. And we have to kind of wonder to ourselves, is this a hallucination being experienced by Amelia, or is this the Babadook tricking Amelia? And I think both of them are valid conclusions to reach, but I think it's really cool that after this point on, we start associating roaches with the Babadook.
Yeah, 100%.
I might even give you that it's been building, because that noise we heard when she was reading the Babadook had an insect-like quality.
100%. It was very
back.
droning and awful.
Yep. And that same sound effect, and again, I kind of want to call it music. I kind of want to call it a sound effect. I don't really know what to call it. Comes back when she peels back the wallpaper and then finds the hole, and then they start to come out. And that's when I had to look at my phone because there was an urgent text that I must look at.
Absolutely. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a sale of some sort that I was just texted about, so I had to go look at Bath & Body Works candles.
Flash sale, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, that night, shit's creepy. Samuel is in bed with Amelia. She is scared. He is scared. Covers over her head. We get a little bit where they're scratching at the door, but it's just Bugsy the dog. Then they're scratching at the door again. It opens all on its own. Amelia then looks, hears, and sees the Babadook on her ceiling, slithering around, and it flies towards her and goes into her, ?
Yikes.
Yikes.
Yeah, I didn't love this. Didn't love this, to be honest. This was scary because we were sort of clinging to the ceiling. You saw the Babadook, but it was mostly in shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And then the flight towards Amelia is done POV. So you, the audience, are the Babadook. Eep, eep, eep.
Yes, very frightening. I think this might be the most viscerally scary part of the movie for me because nothing beats a cockroach monster with a scary clown face crawling on the ceiling in very quick stop motion.
Yeah, the stop motion is such a, here's the thing, and we haven't really talked about this aspect of this is a pretty cheap film.
Mm-hmm.
It was crowdsourced for like the remaining amount of the budget, but stop motion is one of those things that you can use. It's hard. It's a lot of work, but it's actually a little bit cheaper than like a CG approach.
Mm-hmm.
And I think more terrifying. Maybe.
Very much so, yeah.
Very scary.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm even thinking about like Tyler got me to watch Alien. There's some stop motion work that's done at certain points of that's sped up.
Mm-hmm.
That's scary. There's some Godzilla sped up stop motion that's a little scary. Like stop motion done at weird paces is very unsettling.
100%.
So, yeah.
Well, Amelia's freaked out too. She immediately gets up and moves Samuel downstairs where she begins to have hallucinations, many of which feature a figure that looks like Mr. Babadook. And this is where we're again using the television to great effect.
Mm-hmm. It's just a lot. It's a lot. Like this whole thing and like she like gets Samuel up and like he's like, what's going on? And she's like, we're going downstairs. And he says, why? It was like, because we're going, refusing to acknowledge the thing that she just experienced. And like she turns on every single light on the house. She turns on the TV so like there's other noise. She's terrified, but she, like her grief, is refusing to look directly in the face of her fear here.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, too, that when they're watching TV together, she
Mm-hmm.
will not let Samuel fall asleep.
No.
Right. Almost like they're there to protect each other.
Mm-hmm.
Again, sort of blurring the role of parent and protector.
But I think it's also on like a level of how bad is Amelia's behavior getting. I think that is considered abusive behavior. Like child abusive behavior is to keep the child unwillingly awake through like turning off the television, or just like, to me that reads as somewhat abusive.
Right.
I hadn't considered, but you're right. Like sleep deprivation is a torture tactic.
And then of course we see the Babadook manifesting in the television, and that's really weird and that's really creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love the surreal elements of that, and it had me thinking like, oh god, I have to like go watch these old movies and see like if a Babadook like character is showing up in them, or if this is just an Amelia thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the next morning, Amelia is absolutely exhausted. Samuel comes in to tell her that he is hungry, but she yells at him. Something has happened. Amelia is different. However, she comes to her senses and apologizes to Sam. They go for a drive to get out of the house, but Amelia feels and sees roaches all over her. Again, horrifying. Had to check my phone. Then hears and feels the Babadook. She crashes her car.
Yeah. Ooh, this is the scene starts off so nice because when she's sort of realized that she's gone too far by snapping at Samuel, she's just tired, and we can understand that. She then promises to take him to what we might presume is his favorite restaurant. They're sort of sadly at a table next to another group who's very raucous and excited.
I think it's a birthday party of little girls.
Yeah, it feels
feels
like a birthday. Oh God, trigger for Sam.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And then they get in the car and he's like, where are we going? And she's like, I just want to drive for a little while. Almost like, I just want to be out of the house for a little while.
100%.
But even here is not safe. And that's where I think I also got this like added level of Wiggins,
Mm-hmm.
because if I'm buying this as a supernatural, I could also sort of, my brain's been programmed by other ghost stories to think like, oh, the house is the problem. Just get out of the house, you idiots. But that is not helping Amelia and Samuel because the Babadook is on top of the car.
Well, I mean,
He makes the roaches
In broad
appear.
daylight. In broad daylight.
if you might recall, like Samuel had that seizure because the Babadook was in the back seat. So like the
Right.
car is part of the problem. Like this is a place where the Babadook manifests apparently for whatever reason. I also just want to point out, like, in that scene in the very beginning of this little section where Amelia is, when she is harassed, like, she says some really nasty shit to Samuel. But there's one bit that I want to call out that, like, this is the point where, to me, it's, like, very clear, like, this partial possession is obviously taking place, because she says very specifically, she says, why do you keep talking? Like that Babadook thing, like, and it just, when she said that the first time I was watching this film, like, my blood ran cold. I was like,
yeah,
no, he's got her.
Yeah, very scary. Did not like it.
No, things are not coming up, Amelia.
No,
not at all.
Call that card that the community service people gave you. Go get some help.
Can we also talk about that little birthday party? It's so quick,
Sure.
but I think it ties into our queer reading of the movie. This is another time when we see a birthday party that Samuel cannot be a part of, and the fact that it's all girls feels like a throwback to the princess birthday party, another thing that Sam was not allowed to participate in. So it's not just that, like, clearly this is a group of girls that don't know Samuel, but once again, gender comes into play here.
Mm-hmm.
And because Samuel is not a girl, he can't have, like, the birthday party that seems the happiest, where the girls are having their happiest birthday parties, but Sam, as a boy, is denied that thing. And so I think there is kind of like a gender dynamic there that you could read as queer. I'm not going to say, like, oh, clearly this means Samuel is transgender and he's just really young and doesn't know it.
Though that would be an interesting reading for sure.
I think it would be an interesting reading.
Water.
I personally don't think there's enough there, but I also think if someone was listening to this podcast and they were like, wait, yeah, idiot, of course there's more stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
More power to them, and they can read into it. And I look forward to reading that paper. But
yeah, that's a very interesting through line. Like, even if it turns out Samuel, when he grows up, is cisgendered, I do think it's an interesting critique of masculinity, that there's so much to girlhood that boys are just systematically barred from entering. I don't know. That's something I had not considered, but am interested in pondering.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that night, they do get back home. The car is a little banged up, but everyone's okay.
Oh, Amelia does do a hit and run for those keeping track. She just, like, leaves.
You know what? That guy was an asshole. He deserved it.
For sure.
Yeah. He looked wealthy, so he's probably fine.
It's part
Amelia
of the class
did nothing wrong.
Z-axis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that night, with whispers talking in her ear, Amelia comes downstairs to find her son Samuel on the phone with their neighbor, Mrs. Roach. Now, we've seen Mrs. Roach a couple different times. She's a kindly neighbor. She watches Samuel sometimes. She's sort of been this, like, kind presence. At one point in time, Amelia does look over into Mrs. Roach's home and sees the Babadook behind her. Didn't like that. Didn't like that at all.
I do also want to point out, like, in the very beginning, like, the night, like, before they read the Babadook time the first time, Amelia, like, takes out Mrs. The trash for Mrs. Roach, and Mrs. Roach is like, no, it's fine, honey, I can do it, dear. And she's like, no, let me take care of this for you. She's like, like, she is a good person. She wants to take care of Mrs. Roach. They kind of take care of each other. And then all of this happens.
Right. So after telling Samuel not to call her sister, not to call Mrs. Roach, Amelia is very upset with Samuel. She gets a knife out of a drawer and cuts the phone line, and then menacingly holds the knife towards her son. After falling asleep, she hallucinates her dead son and wakes up finding herself holding that same knife and a terrified Samuel in front of her. She instantly puts the knife back in the drawer, realizing the horrors of what she has imagined has happened.
This is the point where I would have had myself committed if you were keeping track. Like, supernatural horror, mental breakdown, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I lose access to my son after this. If I would just instantly, I would call that I would call the number on that card and be like, you have to take care of him. I need to be away from my kid. And, like, that's heartbreaking. And I just, it would, she's in Australia. It wouldn't even bankrupt her because they have socialized medicine. They're just, that is the point where I'm like, nope, sorry. Whatever is going on, whether I'm having a breakdown or there's a monster, that monster wants me to kill my kid, and, like, it's clearly winning. I'm out. It's worth it to me to not have my kid in danger.
Right.
So something else that I find really interesting about that, and I think that's a really great point that you bring that up, Marilee.
Mm-hmm.
The mother, in this case, is a dangerous figure for her son.
Mm-hmm.
And this plays into a very long lineage of the monstrous feminine. A woman who is doing something that is horrifying and antithetical to her position and role in society as a woman and mother.
Mm-hmm.
She's trying to threaten to kill her child. She's trying to kill her child. There can be nothing worse in society than a mother killing her child. That is what we have determined by our ideology to say there is nothing worse. And so the fact that Amelia is close to doing that but catches herself, we see the Babadook's possession or the grief is twisting her into this person that she doesn't recognize anymore. And like, I think it's a lot to ask for us to still feel sympathy for Amelia in the scene, but the fact that she realizes what she's doing and she puts the knife away because she's not yet been fully taken, I think is what saves her from going totally over the edge. Mm-hmm. She's not going to be like, this horrible monster of a person willingly. She's gonna try and fight it. But I think it's just cool to kind of see like, Amelia is now beginning to take her place in this long legacy of monstrous women.
I love that.
Something else too that I think was that I think was interesting, and I again plays into this idea of maybe Amelia is having a psychotic break, is that Mrs. Roach is named Mrs. Roach. And what have we been dealing with? Cockroaches. And what is being a problem for her that she can't stand? Cockroaches. And what is a manifestation of the Babadook? Cockroaches. And where does the Babadook show up? At one point in Mrs. Roach's house. I think there are a lot of connections there that feed into the idea that maybe Amelia is manifesting some of this stuff through her own mental break. But I think it's also very fair to say that maybe I'm reading too far into it.
Well, so if Amelia is manifesting this, what do you think the Roach of it all has to do? Because like Amelia cares about Mrs. Roach, at least in some way. So why would Roach be so viscerally awful and disgusting for her in this way?
I think it's, if we were to take the view that the Babadook is a literal malevolent presence, then Mrs. Roach is now becoming a threat to the Babadook's goal of getting Samuel. And Samuel calling Mrs. Roach on the phone is now a negative thing. So if the Babadook is creating these hallucinations of roaches to upset Amelia and drive her further down this path of destruction, then now there is a negative connection between the actual creatures, roaches, and the name of this person who could potentially save Samuel, Mrs. Roach.
Sure, definitely that could be a part of it. To me, it always just seemed like the bugs were part of the Babadook's whole thing. Like, not to quote David Pumpkins or anything, but they're just part of it. But I mean specifically in your version where this is all just a mental breakdown, why would Mrs. Roach have such a negative association for Amelia, do you think?
Well, I would read that she's just a part of the world that is next to or adjacent, I mean literally adjacent to Amelia. And so if there are, subconscious things that Amelia's mind is bringing into the world, that shared name might then be the manifestation of that. It has nothing to do with the person. It just has to do with the proximity.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of readings that you could do in this. I'm going through it and just trying to see how all of them could kind of work, because I think there is something there, but it could either just be like there's not as much to it, and I'm just spitballing here, but or it could be David's point. I think it's maybe a combination of all of them, honestly.
I think if we could get Jennifer Kent on the phone, she would say, "What a brilliant way of looking at it," and then she would remind us that the region of the world in which Roach as a surname is the most common is South Australia, where Adelaide is located.
Man, Adelaide's got some issues if every other person there is named Roach.
Not every other person. It is still rank 480th, but that is the most common location in the world.
You are so cool and smart.
go.
I had not even considered that a possibility. Thank you for doing your due diligence on that. I'm thrilled by you.
I love all interpretations, from the mundane to the really, really, really scary. So I will take it all.
Perfect. Like, this isn't important. It's not part of the recap, so I'm just gonna like throw it out there here. Like the next morning, Amelia like gives Samuel ice cream for breakfast because of like clearly how guilty she feels about what just happened. And like on the one hand, bribing your kids with sweets to make them forgive you for that mess up, classic parent move. But on the other hand, the previous day Samuel had said that we didn't have any food in the house,
Right.
and I don't know what they ate at like that diner, but this is another like the next, I think it was like they were shown having dessert, and then in this scene eating ice cream for breakfast. Like, are they having vegetables? Like, what's their nutrient situation here? Like, I hope that, is he getting fed enough? I worry about him.
I don't think either of them are getting fed enough. I definitely think that part of the supernatural that, or at least surreal, that we're supposed to be interpreting is to understand that basic needs are not being met
for sure
either of these folks.
So Amelia tries to fall asleep. Like, she tries to watch television, but the images that she sees are disturbing. She falls asleep and then has a vision of like following Samuel to the basement, where she finds an apparition of her dead husband Oscar. He instructs her to bring him the boy. And like, it's a really great scene where like she sees him and like they embrace, and then like the dawning horror of it all, where he starts saying like, bring him the boy, and she like realizes something's wrong. She runs upstairs, she flees the Babadook, she like bars the door. He comes down the chimney, and he like flying finally gets her. He possesses her, and it's over.
Nope, didn't like this either. Didn't care for this. But yikes is right.
Yeah,
I'm going to say something here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was really funny when his top hat just dropped out of the chimney.
Yeah,
and I thought,
that was good.
This is Camp Mama. This is
yeah.
He's a gay icon. He's always been a gay icon. Have you not seen the film?
Exactly. Yeah, he's been a gay icon all this time, and that was just one way that like some drag queens pull off their wig and there's a bunch of rose petals under there. Mm-hmm. Others drop a hat down a chimney and then possess a very distressed mother.
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. This was very effective. Obviously, the possession of Amelia is complete now, but I've got to say that the noises that the Babadook is making as it approaches and then enters Amelia was very, very frightening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. There were some times that I noticed that they used canned sound effects, like canned roars and everything else, and I was just like, oh, that's kind of... But it kind of took me out of it a little bit.
It comes up a lot more in like the climax, but there's a specific sound that they make that's that they have the dinosaur make that's like a dinosaur sound from like the 90s cartoon TV show, and it truly takes me out of it every time. It's like, you're not a dinosaur, Mr. Babadook. What are you doing?
What are you doing here, Mr. Babadook?
No, that's a dinosaur noise. Why are you making the dinosaur noise?
Come on.
Because it's scary.
I mean, yeah, it's all really scary. This is one of the things that, like, as you're sitting there with the horror of watching the Babadook, you think to yourself, why'd they use the dinosaur noises?
Yes. Yeah, we're in the climax now. Amelia has changed. She runs after Bugsy and unfortunately kills the dog, and is very sad. Mm-hmm. Samuel hides upstairs in his room, and in a demonic voice, Amelia calls to be let in, eventually kicking the door down. Samuel wets himself as Amelia tells him she wishes it was Samuel who had died and not Oscar. Ouch. Samuel throws fireworks at her, then uses his improvised weapons against her. There is a knock at the door. It's Mrs. Roach. She came to check on Amelia and Oscar. After they check in, we instantly then cut to Amelia apologizing to Sam and saying that they are going to stay with Mrs. Roach. But Samuel isn't fooled. He stabs her and runs to the basement, tripping her with a contraption and knocking her unconscious.
Y'all, I was 100% certain that this was a series wrap on Mrs. Roach. I was like, we didn't see your death in the book, but you showed up and then you weren't on screen. And I was like, oh no, my girl dead. My girl is dead. D-E-D. Never to be heard from again.
Oh boy.
I'm so happy she didn't die.
Me too.
Me too. Not that, like, Bugsy, very sad.
Oh my God.
Traumatic.
Awful scene.
But you know what? In the movie's defense, I was warned about Bugsy.
It's true.
So that was almost okay. Mrs. Roach would have been a bridge too far, movie. A bridge too far.
Truly.
Yeah. So this little section is so much, like, so much happens. But I do want to point out that Amelia rips out her tooth here. Which, it's not huge in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't even make the book. But, like, my God. Awful. Awful.
That was my, I have to go on Twitter for a couple minutes. Let me check back in after this scene is over. Because, boy, did that feel like it lasted forever.
It was awful.
Great job.
Well
told story, let me tell you, because I believed she was taking a tooth out.
Yep.
And I know that the actor was not actually taking a tooth out.
Yeah.
But she acted her heart out.
She really did. I also want to do, like, a quick shout out to, like, the effects. Like, they do a lot of stuff in this scene. Like, this is clearly a very easy thing to do with, like, a dolly, or like a thing with wheels. But they have, after Amelia breaks into the bedroom as she is, like, shouting at Samuel and saying the things about Oscar, like, she is not walking. You can clearly see her, like, moving completely. It's like she's floating. It's very well done.
Those always creep me out in horror movies. It's so good. I love that they did that.
Yeah, me too.
I love that each of you put these things in the notes, and I purposefully, when writing the notes, took them out. And you said, no, we have to talk about that.
Yeah.
The tooth and the scary dolly thing have to be discussed. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Oops.
Thank you.
Oops. Thank you. Well, let me bring it back to something more existential, David.
Okay.
I think Jennifer Kent really said, I'm going to scare them on a primal level with this scene because, and again, let's go back to a queer reading here, because that is what we do here. We are notorious for putting our queer fingers all over
right in the name of the podcast.
Movies. Right in the name of the podcast. I think Amelia saying, I wish it should have been you that died and not Oscar, is equivalent to a parent saying, like, I wish you were never born, or I don't love you, after a child says that they're queer, or it's made clear to the parent that they are a queer child, and maybe it's not clear to the child. To me, I think every kid has this fear of their parents not loving them anymore. And, like, I remember as a little kid, I actually had a nightmare where my mom said that to me. And it was really upsetting, but there was, like, no reason for that to happen. It's just, like, a fear that children have. And it's not recognized because we talked about how Amelia is kind of this monstrous feminine, which I think now she really is. She is saying the things that ideologically as a society we say, you should never say that to your child. You should never do this thing to your child. And one of those things is saying, I wish you were dead.
Yeah. And like, not to look at it with, like, a trans lens again, but I wish that Oscar was alive and you were dead. Maybe Oscar is, like, the kid's dead name. Like, you want the male version of this person that you could have been to be here instead of whoever you actually are.
And it's interesting, too, because many times, we haven't talked about this, but many times throughout the movie, especially Mrs. Roach will tell Amelia that Samuel reminds them so much of Oscar, because Oscar used to speak his mind, and Oscar was always very talkative and upfront. And unfortunately, I don't think we really see that too much with Oscar. Maybe that's because we're seeing Amelia's perception of Oscar, which is removing those negative things that we see. Sorry
to interrupt you, but we're not seeing Amelia's perception of Oscar. We're seeing the Babadook portraying Oscar.
Yeah, and also,
okay.
Specifically, this is not Oscar as, like, most of the time that when we see Oscar for real, it's like the memory of right before he died. Like, his last sentence is, I think it's gonna rain, and then he dies horribly. That's like the only canon thing for sure that Oscar ever said.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent point. Yeah.
I love the reading, but my boy Oscar was a fiddlin' playing, super cool hipster bro. I know who Oscar is, and it is not who we see in this film.
Listen, Oscar has autistic riz, we can tell. That's all that we got.
To me, that's what it is, yeah. But, okay, let me rephrase it then. Because the version of Oscar that we actually see is the Babadook. Mm-hmm. But what we hear about Oscar from other people, he are the same characteristics in Samuel that Amelia hates.
Right, exactly.
And I think that...
Sorry, that's because of the grief, right?
Yeah. Like she doesn't want to see the things that remind her of the love of her life that's no longer here. Like, it's one of the things where it's so painful to look at this, like, the hole in your heart, and then you have to see that person that you miss every day running around 7 years old instead. Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's all hard.
Yep.
Well, we have got to get rid of this Babadook. So when Amelia wakes up, Samuel has tied her up. He tells her that he will always love her. She breaks free of her bindings and goes to strangle Samuel, and he puts his hands towards her lovingly, and she releases him and then coughs out a black bile, which releases the Babadook from her body.
Yay! Dun, 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 dun.
But it's also
victory.
Disgusting.
Oh, awful. Very gross.
I mean, I was here for this because this is where the odd part of me will come out. I can deal with some gore. I am all into that. That doesn't bother me one little bit. Ghost, scary, bile, no big deal. I thought it was cool. I was like, this is awesome. It's disgusting looking. I would love to know what they made this poor actress put in her mouth and then choke out in order to create this effect, because it was probably like a gnarly concoction, because it is too viscous to just be the standard dyed yogurt. Loved it.
Yeah, the thing that I really like about that scene is it's so subtle. It's so subtle that, like, I'm not 100% sure I'm even seeing it. I'm like no expert in this field, but to me, it looks like they used effects in some way to make Essie Davis's mouth bigger, like open wider than like normal human proportion. It's very subtly done. It's so effective. It just like it's. Like, yeah, you remember The Mummy, the 90s Mummy with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Wendt, like, the best Mummy. It's not, like, the Mummy opening his mouth that wide, but it's just enough to make you a little uncomfortable. And I thought that was really cool.
Back to this movie, though.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I find this scene to be so gross, but because of the black bile being vomited up. But I love the after effect actually I think it's before she throws up the bile, but it's when she's shaking her head very, very quickly. We talked about how scary it is to see footage sped up, and this is such a classic, very unnerving moment. It's it feels like a shout out to the movie Jacob's Ladder, and then Silent Hill by extension, which was inspired by Jacob's Ladder, to do the same, where a head shakes very, very fast, impossibly so. And it's always unnerving. Plus, there is this very unpleasant drone that is playing the entire time that's happening. So even though it is kind of like a hopeful moment of Amelia shaking off the Babadook's possession, it's still just like, Christ alive, what the fuck is going on right now? And I think that drone really, really plays into that.
Yeah, for sure. And like with the head thing, earlier, when the first time we see Amelia post the Babadook possessing her, she's like sitting on the couch watching TV, and her head is moving in such a weird. It's less extreme than it is here, but it's that same sort of effect, and it's so unnerving and so effective.
Yeah.
But things still aren't over. You cannot get rid of the Babadook. Like Samuel says that, like they leave the basement, they're like on the stairs, he says that, and then he gets dragged upstairs by this unseen force, like, and just drags him, I think it's to Amelia's room, some room upstairs. Amelia runs after him and holds him tight. She confronts this entity, and it forces her to relive the experience of Oscar dying. Amelia is done. She tells the Babadook that he is nothing and that he is trespassing in her house. She threatens the Babadook, and the confrontation leaves the Babadook like this broken husk. It flees into the basement.
This, what a climax. What a climax of we're done, we're not done, boy getting dragged up the stairs by an unseen force and then thrown against the walls was an instant way to like reinvigorate your tension.
Oh, for
like,
sure.
This was great. This was great.
And I love also just that, like, we keep describing Samuel as getting dragged by the Babadook, and it's like, yes, queen, drag her!
Yeah.
Gay icon Babadook, yes. Sorry, the spirit of pride just possessed me in that moment, like much like the Babadook.
Listen, it's June, baby. Like that's just happens to everybody.
Yeah.
The Babadoosy is what has possessed me.
Oh my god! Stop!
Oh my god! Look at his face.
I love torturing David. So I really love this scene too because it's just like the rules from Scream. The bad guy has to come back for one last scare, and in this case, it's the Babadook. And Oscar's death is so horrible, and I totally forgot that they show his head being sliced in half at the diagonal as part of it, and I was just like, whoa, holy shit.
Yeah.
I think I even gasped when it happened, because this really paints the picture of why Amelia is as messed up as she is. To me, like, I don't know how you get past that. Like, that's very, very difficult. And so suddenly I feel a new resurgence for Amelia having to go through this, because it's one thing just to have your partner die. It's another thing to see them die in such a visceral, horrible way. Right. I think it's also really cool that much of this ending is a feeling of overwhelming presence versus overwhelming presence, where it seems like the Babadook is going to win, but then Amelia gets it together and screams back while holding Samuel. And it's just, and seeing the Babadook shrink down or just be pushed back, and then we never see it again. It's physically never present again. We only see things from its perspective, and then it like takes off, flying down to the basement in fear. That catharsis is really profound, and I think that was such a good choice by Kent to not show us like a little Babadook or like a really like small, just like harmless Babadook. Instead, it's almost cute. Like, she doesn't show us that. She refrains from doing that and instead shows from its perspective. Now it is the prey, and so it takes off running.
Yeah, and I do think that it's really interesting in the second version of the Babadook book. Like, it specifically says the more you deny, the stronger I'll be. In this moment where Amelia is done denying things, she's done backing down, she reclaims her power over this situation, suddenly the Babadook has nothing to work with, and that's it. It just, it's over. As long as, when you're not looking at it, that's when you're refusing, you're denying the situation, it can get bigger and bigger and bigger and more powerful until you finally have to confront it.
Yeah. And the idea of calling the Babadook a trespasser, I also feel like this is a really important thing, because what we've set up is that the Babadook demands to be let in. That's sort of how it becomes in control. That's how it exerts its power, as Marilee talked about the denial aspect of it. But to say, you're here, you're real, but you're nothing. And I don't give you permission to be here anymore. And if we're taking the easy interpretation, which is that the Babadook is grief is often described as a trespasser in your emotions. It's how we look at it psychologically. When somebody is going through grief, it's not an invited emotion. It's something that comes to you sort of unasked for, and you have to figure out how to deal with it, which is why you've got things like the Kubler-Ross stages of grief that we theoretically go through.
I love that.
It's really great.
So
that's a really good point.
Let's wrap up this movie.
Let's wrap it up.
It's a few weeks later. Amelia and Samuel are enjoying a low-key birthday for Samuel. Outside, Amelia and Samuel collect worms in a bowl. Amelia goes to the basement and puts down the bowl of worms. A dark entity, the Babadook, scares her and contorts her body, but she soothes it. The Babadook takes the bowl of worms and retreats into the shadows, and Amelia leaves. Back outside, Samuel performs a magic trick to his mother's delight, and they embrace contently.
It's really lovely.
It's lovely and a little scary. Like it's scary, and yet it's just part of their life.
Yeah.
Now. Like a feral animal that they're taking care of in the basement. But it was still scary.
Yeah, for sure.
And Amelia is scared.
And I love that
thing.
At no point are they not afraid of it still.
Right.
Like they're like realistic about it, and they're not letting it control them. But Amelia, when she goes to the basement, she looks scared as shit.
Yeah.
As she should be, probably.
And she doesn't let Samuel in the house when this is happening. He has to be outside when she goes downstairs.
Go outside. Well, and my girl put some locks on this basement door.
I noticed that too, yeah.
Get it? Little craftswoman.
I think this is so cool, this whole ending. First of all, DCS is back. So
yep.
But that light at the end of the tunnel has manifested, and things are good. They seem pretty satisfied. Samuel is still open, willing to speak his mind. Amelia says she's just like his father.
Yep.
And that's such like a wonderful moment, displaying how Amelia is no longer keeping all this stuff locked up and separate from Samuel. Samuel's allowed to have a father again.
Yeah.
I think it's also cool that in the scene right before she goes down into the basement, Samuel says, "Can I like come with you?" And she says, "When you're older." And on the one hand, you could see that as like Amelia saying like, oh, she's still pushing Samuel away. She still won't fully open up. But to me, I think that is actually a really positive thing to say, because first of all, Samuel is still a small child.
Yeah.
He should not be interacting with something that is clearly a malicious presence. If the Babadook we take it literally, which I think the ending kind of asks us to do. But Amelia is also willing to actually communicate with Samuel, even if it's to say, we will talk about this when you're older. Because this is clearly something that if it were in the past, she would have said, no, don't talk about it. Just go outside. And
it's not a no. It's not a no. In fact, it's a just not yet.
Correct. Yeah. So I think, again, we're able to see like, hey, Amelia is growing. They're reforming a much healthier relationship. And that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's really lovely. No, just to do a quick check-in with like the trans reading, the birthday stuff is all very blue, which I don't know, just is a fun thing to point out with all of the pink birthday stuff. Like now Samuel gets to have a birthday on his birthday, but it is still not the femininity that he was denied earlier. If that matters. I'm not sure it does, but I do think it's worth pointing out since we've talked so much about it.
I think it could also be gender affirming too, because if Samuel is like grows up and realizes, hey, I'm cis, I am a boy, this is a birthday party that says like, hey, all the birthday parties that you've seen before have girls involved with them. Let's give you something that is like, this is just for you, Samuel.
Yeah.
This is just something that you, as a boy, I'm recognizing you get to have this for yourself now. So maybe it's sort of building a healthy view of masculinity, which is clearly something that Samuel was looking for throughout a lot of the movie, because he wanted to know more about his father.
Yeah, I love that.
I also want to just call, because we're here at the end, it's happy times. Samuel is doing legitimately highfalutin magic, like in front of his mother. I mean, I think a trick that would be difficult for me to perform as an adult with private lessons, he is now pulling off. And I think that there's a beauty to this, because he's repeated these words. We heard it from the DVD magician teacher, that life is not always as it seems. It can be a wondrous thing, but it can also be very treacherous, which does also serve, I feel like, as a thesis to the story that's being
100%
told in this film.
I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a beautiful way to like kind of sum it up.
Well, with that, then, we have made it to the end of 2014's The Babadook. What are some other thoughts that you all have had on things we didn't get a chance to talk about, and other ways that we can analyze this movie through a queer lens?
So I feel like, to me, I've kind of talked about everything I wanted to talk about, but as far as like calling this a queer movie, I think it absolutely is. I think you can totally read a lot of queer messages into this, and I think that Babadook itself, it can also be a manifestation of something queer. whether that be the queering of a family dynamic, the queering of the individual characters. And so when he turned into the Babadook turned into a meme, on the first glance, it's just like, why the fuck is the Babadook a queer icon? Now we kind of see, like, okay, actually, like, this happy accident on Netflix's part does lead to us realizing, like, no, there's something here.
Yeah, like, look how much stuff we've talked about this whole time, just anecdotally pointing stuff out. I really think that there's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of meat on this bone that people haven't really, because again, it's so obviously about grief. Like, the grief of it all is pretty apparent. So this is just like a fun little thing that we get to do for fun. I said fun too many times in that sentence, but I'm not going to take it back.
I guess my last thoughts is very scary. Probably will not watch again. I love that I've seen it. I love that it's part of the cultural zeitgeist. I love the discussion that we've had, but I will say that this is a well-told story, and I will agree with Friedkin. It's probably one of the scariest things I've ever seen.
It was scary. It's really scary. It really is effective with every single minute of its screen time. Like, Kent is a master of, like, ratcheting the tension up in lots of different ways so that you are uncomfortable pretty much the entire way through.
Boy, I sure love that. I love when a horror movie makes me uncomfortable.
I don't.
Great.
It's not fun. Like, there are a lot of parts of this movie. Again, I think I said this off mic. I might have said this earlier. I've said so many things this morning. Part where this has evaporated for me. So if it's a repeat, listeners, I'm sorry. But when the Babadook actually showed up was a relief for me, because I could stop worrying about all of the tense moments between, like, Amelia and Claire and all of that other stuff, and, like, the awkwardness with that coworker that was obviously trying to flirt with her, but she is still all holed up in that her grief that she's just not going to be responsive to it, and just, like, all of this other stuff. Oh my god, thank god the giant monster is here. I can just focus on that and leave all of those other problems alone for a while.
Well, it's been a real treat. Do either of you have anything you'd like to point our listenership towards for either further investigation, to explore, or just to celebrate the queerness of the Babadook?
For Pride Month or Wrath Month, whichever month you are choosing to celebrate our queer audience, please do something nice for yourself. Treat yourself to something good. You really deserve it. And go put your whole Babadook into your life. Oh my god, not the Babadook.
No, I just I think that this is the kind of film, if you do watch this for yourself and you had any kind of reaction to it, you should go do something nice. Like, go, like Amelia, to the mall and have an ice cream by yourself and, like, really sit internally with it, because you deserve it.
Yeah, do something nice for yourself that you can do by yourself. I love going to the movie theater by myself. I love going out to a coffee place by myself. There's something to be said about just kind of taking time for you.
Yeah, I haven't done this in a long time. That. I should maybe bring it back. I used to, like, take myself on dates where I would just, like, go. I would have an evening where I would just do something for me just by myself. Because like, sometimes there are movies that nobody else wants to see, so you just make a plan and do it. I big advocate for taking yourself on a date.
And what better way to take yourself on a date than to listen to a podcast? So if you liked listen, I am doing the best I can. If you liked hearing me talk about poor Amelia in this film and want to hear discussions about other mothers in media, I run a podcast called Are You My Mother? That you can find online wherever you get podcasts. Or if you liked hearing about some of the weird aspects of filming and how the special effects were done, my buddy Derek and I do a podcast called Gimmicks, where we talk about the high concept, weird, and experimental episodes of television. And you can find that wherever you get podcasts. But for this one, we'll be back in a couple of weeks, because I've booked us a beautiful little place to stay just a couple miles out of Fairville. A beautiful little hotel. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. The Bates Motel. I think it's going to be spectacular.
Ooh. Looking forward to having a very cozy stay there. It seems like the perfect place on a rainy night to take a hot shower and relax.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. Well, we'll see you all then, so get the water warm.
Yeah, no, and if you like this podcast, please give us a follow at Fear Coded Pod on Instagram and Twitter. So you can see probably whatever horrible Babadook memes we would like to post between now and then.
Oh, we're doing it. We're doing it.
We're doing it.
We're doing it.
For now, we'll just say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Duck, duck, duck.
No.